Chapter 2. The helping hands didn't stop swarming around him until Thomas stood up straight and had the dust brushed from his shirt and pants. Still dazzled by the light, he staggered a bit. He was consumed with curiosity, but still felt too ill to look closely at his surroundings. His new companions sound said his new companions said nothing as he swiveled his head around, trying to take it all in. As he rotated in a slow circle, the other kids snickered and stared. Some reached out and poked him with a finger. There had to be at least 50 of them. Their clothes smudged and sweaty, as if they'd been hard at work. All shapes and size and races. Their hair, their hair of varying lengths. Thomas suddenly felt dizzy, his eyes flickering between the boys and the bizarre place in which he'd found himself. They stood in the vast courtyard, several times the size of a football field, surrounded by four enormous walls made of gray stone and covered covered in spots with thick ivy. The walls had to be hundreds of feet high and formed a perfect square around them, each side split in the exact middle by an opening as tall as the walls themselves that, from what Thomas Thomas could see, led the passages and long corridors beyond. Look at the green bean, a scratchy boy said. Thomas couldn't see how it came from. Gonna break his shock neck checking out the new digs. Several boys laughed. Shut your hole, Gally, a deeper voice responded. Thomas focused back in the dozens of strangers around him. He knew he must look out of it. He felt like he'd been drugged. A tall kid with blood, hair, hair, and a square jaw sniffed at him, his face devoid of expression. A short, a short body boy fidgeted back and forth on his feet, looking up, looking up at Thomas with wide eyes. A thick, heavily muscled Asian kid folded his arms as he studied Thomas. His tight, sheared lips rolled up to show off his biceps. A dark snaked boy forward, the same one who'd welcomed him countless others started. Where am I? Thomas asked, surprised at hearing his voice for the first time in his salvageable memory. It didn't sound quite right, higher than he would be he would imagine. Nowhere good. This came from the dark-skinned boy. Just slim yourself nice and calm. Which keeper he gonna get? Someone shouted from the back of the crowd. I told ya, shark face. A shrill voice responded. He's a clunk, so he'll be a slooper. No doubt about it. The kid bleated like he'd just said the funniest thing in history. Thomas once again felt a pressing edge of confusion, hearing too many words and phrases that didn't make sense. Shank, shock, keeper, slooper. They popped out of the boy's mouth so naturally. It seemed odd for him not to understand. It was as if his memory loss had stolen a chunk of his languages. It was disorienting. Different emotions battled from for dominate in his mind and heard confusion, curiosity, panic, fear, but laced through it all was the dark feeling of utter hopelessness, like the world had ended for him, had been wiped from his wiped, wiped from his memory and replaced with something awful. He wanted to run and hide from these people. The scratchy voiced boy was talking. Even do that much, bet my liver on it. Thomas still couldn't see his face. I said, shut your holes, the dark boy yelled. Keep yapping and next Brickleby, Brickleby, Brickleby cut in half. Thomas must be their leader. That must be their leader. Thomas realized, hating how everyone waved at him. He concentrated on studying the place the boy had called the glade. The floor of the courtyard looked like it was made of huge stone blocks, many of them cracked and filled with long grasses and weeds. An odd, dilapidated wooden building near one of the corners of the square contrasted greatly with the grey stone. A few trees surrounded it, their roots like gnarled hands digging into the rock floor for food. Another corner of the compound held gardens, from where he was standing. Thomas recognized corn, tomato plants, fruit trees. Across the courtyard from there stood wooden pens holding sheep and pigs and cows. A large grove of trees filled the final corner. The closest ones looked ripped and close to dying. The sky overhead was cloudless, cloudless and blue, but Thomas couldn't see no sign of the sun despite the brightness of the day. The creepy shadows of the walls didn't reveal the time or direction. It could be early morning or late afternoon as he breathed, breathed in deeply, trying to settle his nerves. A mixture of smells bombarded him, freshy, turned dirt, manage, manage, pine, something rotten and something sweet. Somehow he knew that these were the smell of a farm. Thomas looked back at his captors, feeling onward but desperate to ask questions. Captor, captors, he thought. Then why did that word pop into my head? He scanned their faces, talking, taking in each expression, judging them. One boy's eyes flared with hatred, stopped him cold. He looked so angry Thomas wouldn't have been surprised if the kid came at him with a knife. He had black hair, and when they made eye contact, the boy shook his head and turned away, walking toward a grassy iron pole with a wooden bench next to it, a multicolored flag hanging limp at the top of the pole. No wind to reveal its pattern. Shaking. Thomas, shaking. Thomas started at the boy's back until he turned and took a seat. Thomas quickly looked away. Suddenly, the leader of the group, perhaps he was 17, took a step forward. He wore normal clothes, black t-shirt, jeans, tennis, tennis shoes, a digital watch. For some reason, the clothing here, clothing here surprised Thomas. It seemed like everyone should be wearing something more menacing, like prison graph. The dark-skinned boy had short cropped hair, his face clean shaven, but other than the permanent skull, there was nothing scary about him at all. It's a long story, Shank, the boy said. Piece by piece, you learned. I'll be taking, I'll be taking, I'll be taking you on the tour tomorrow. Till then, just don't break anything. He held a hand out. Name's Albi. He waited, clearly waiting to shake hands. Thomas refused. Some instinct took over his action, and without without saying anything, he turned away from Albi and walked to a nearby tree, where he plopped down to sit with his back against the road bark. Panic swelled inside him once again, almost too much to bear. But he took a deep breath and forced himself to try to accept the situation. Just with it, he thought, you wanna figure out anything as if you give in the fear. Then tell me, Thomas called out, struggling to keep his voice even. Tell me the long story. Albie glanced at the friends close to him, rolling his eyes, and Thomas studied the crowd again. His original estimate had been close. There were probably 50 or 50 to 60 of them, ranging from boys in their mid-teens to young adults like Albie, who seemed to be one of the oldest at the moment. Thomas realized with a sickening large that he had no idea how old he was. His heart sank at the thought. He was so lost he didn't even know his own age. Seriously, he said, giving up on the show of courage. Where am I? Albie walked over to him and sat down cross legged. The crowd of boys followed and packed in, in behind. Heads popped up here and there. Kids leaning in every direction to get a better look. If you ain't scared, Albie said, you ain't human. Act any different and I'd throw you throw you off the cliff because it mean you are psycho. The cliff, Thomas asked, blood draining from his face. Suck it, Albie said, rubbing his eyes. Ain't no way to start these conversations. You got me? We don't kill shanks like you here, I promise. Just try and avoid being killed. Survive, whatever. He paused, and Thomas realized his face must must widen even more when he heard that last part. Man, Albie said, then ran his hands over his short hair as he let out a long sigh. I ain't got at this. You're the first green bean since Nick was killed. Thomas Thomas' eyes widened and another voice stepped up and playfully slapped Albie across the head. Wait for the bloody tour, Albie, he said, his voice thick with an all odd accent. Kind's gonna have bargain. Her attack nothing even being heard yet. He bent down and extended his hand toward Thomas. Name's Newt, Greeny, and we'd all be right, cheery, if you'd forgive our clank for Brain's new leader here. Thomas reached out and shook the boy's hand. He seemed a lot nicer than Albie. Newt was taller than Albie too, but looked to be a year or so younger. His his hair was blonde and good long, cascading over his t-shirt. Bangs stuck out of his muscled arms. Pipe it, shook face. Albie grunted. pulling Newt down to sit next to him. At least he can understand half my words. There were a few scared laughs, and then everyone gathered behind Albie and Newt, packing in even tighter, waiting to hear that they said what they said. Albie spread his his arms out, palms. This place, this place is called the Glade. All right, it's where we live, where we eat, where we sleep. We call ourselves the Gladers. That's all you. Who sent me here? Thomas. Thomas demanded, fear finally giving away to anger. Who could but Albie's hand shot out before he could finish, grabbing Thomas by the by the shirt as he leaned forward on his knees. Get up, Shank, get up. Albie stood pulling Thomas with him. Thomas finally got his feet under him, scared all over again. He backed against the tree, trying to get away from Albie, who stayed right in his face. No interruptions, boy. Albie shouted. Wacket, Wacker, if we told you everything, you'd die on the spot. Right after you clunked your pants, Bugger dragged you off. And you ain't not good to use them, are ya? I don't even know what are you what you are talking about. Thomas said slowly, shocked at how still his voice sounded. Newt reached out and grabbed Albie by the shoulders. Albie laid off a bit. You are hurting more than helping. You know, Albie let go of Thomas' shirt and stepped back, his chest heaving with breaths. Ain't got time to be nice, grieving. Old lives over, new lives begun. Learned the rules quickly, listened, listened, don't talk, you get me. Thomas looked over at Newt, hoping for help. Everything inside him churned and hard. The tears that had yet to come burned his eyes. Newt nodded. Greeny, you get him right. He nodded again. Thomas fumed, wanted to punch somebody, but he simply said, yeah. Good, good dad, Albie said. First day, that's the what today is for you. Shank, night's coming. Runners, runners be back. The box came late today. Ain't gonna time for tour. Tomorrow morning, right after they wake up, he turned toward Newt. Get him a bed. Get him to sleep. Good dad, Newt said. Albie's Albie's eyes turned to Thomas, narrowing. A few weeks, you'll be happy, Shank. You'll be happy and helping. None of us knew Jack on Thursday. You neither. New life begins tomorrow. Albie turned and pushed his way through the crowd, then headed for the slanted wooden building in the corner. Most of the kids wandered wandered away then, each one giving Thomas a lingering look before they walked off. Thomas Thomas folded his arms, closed his eyes, took a deep breath. Emptiness ate away at his insides, quickly replaced by a sadness that hurt his heart. It was all too much. Where was he? What was this place? Was it some kind of prison? If so, why had to be sent here, and for how long? The language was odd, and one of the boys seemed to care whether whether he lived or died. Tears Tears threatened again to fill his eyes, but he refused to. refused to let them come. What did I do? He whispered, not really meaning for anyone to hear him. What did I what did I do? Why'd they send me here? Newt clapped him on the shoulder. Greeny, what you are feeling? Greeny, what you are feeling? We've all felt it. We've all had first day come out of that dark box. Things are bad, they are, and they'll get much worse for you, son. That's the truth. But down the road a piece, you'll be fighting through and good. I can tell you are not, uh, you are not a bloody sissy. Is this a prison? Thomas asked. He took in the darkness of thoughts, trying to find a crack to his past. Don't ask for questions, haven't ya? Newt replied. No good answers for ya. Not yet anyway. Best be quiet now. Accept the change. The change more comes tomorrow. Thomas said nothing. His head sunk, his eyes staring at the cracked, rocky ground. A line of small leafed weeds ran along the edge of one of the stone blocks. Tiny yellow flowers peep, peeping through as if searching for the sun. Long disappeared behind the enormous walls of the glade.